All right, welcome back. In today's analysis, we are going to look into aviation data. So the one that we're going to focus on is basically like how much of a travel is happening. And in the field of aviation, that can be measured either in passenger kilometers or in cargo if it is a cargo airplanes that we're going to focus on. So what does passenger kilometers mean? Basically, it measures the total distance traveled by all passengers on civil aviation flights. It reflects the volume of passenger transport activity. So the unit is in million passenger kilometers, and it's used for evaluating airline traffic, route efficiency, and demand analyses. So the formula, this is the total, this is the formula to calculate the total passenger kilometers. So you basically take the number of passengers in an airplane, you multiply that by the distance traveled by that airplane, and you add all the airplanes up like this. Okay, this is the total passenger kilometer. The average is basically the same thing, and then you divide it by the number of airplanes traveling in that month, for example. Okay, so within a certain period, it can be daily, it can be weekly. So the data that we're going to focus on today is going to be monthly. So in the example here, for example, you see 5 different flights, right? Here's the number of passengers in those flights, and here's the distance traveled or distance flown. So for example, the first one is 120 passengers, 800 kilometers. You multiply them and you will get 96,000 passenger kilometers. So that's for this first flight only. You do the same thing for the other flights as well. You have these numbers, right? You add them up. So in total, we have 52,000 passenger kilometers. Since there was 5 flights, divide this by 5, and the average number will be 130,400 passenger kilometers. Okay, so and then the metric, the unit we are using here is in million passenger kilometers. So you turn this into a million. That means you divide it by 1,000. So the number you will see is 0.65 million passenger kilometers. Okay. Cargo, same idea. So cargo net ton kilometers measures the total weight distance product of cargo transported by air. It reflects the volume and efficiency of freight movement. So the unit is, in this case, 1,000 net ton kilometers. It's used for logistic planning, freight demand analysis, and airline performance. So in each of the flights, we take the cargo, how much tonnage it has, right? How many tons of cargo is being transported, the distance traveled, we multiply it, and we add it up for all the airplanes, for all the cargo airplanes in this case. And to calculate the average, we basically divide by the number of airplanes or the number of flights. Okay. So n is the number of flights, cargo tons, that's the cargo in tons on this flight, on that specific flight. And the distance is distance flown by that flight in kilometers. So here, if a airplane was carrying 12 tons of cargo and it traveled 800 kilometers, multiply them, you have 9,600 cargo net ton kilometers. Okay, so this net here is basically just the cargo itself. Okay, that's what we mean by net. So we have 5 flights, right? We add all these cargo net ton kilometers up, we get 53,000 plus some value there, and if you divide by 5, on average we have 10,690 ton kilometers per flight. So that's the average value. And since the unit we use is 1,000 in the thousands, so 1,000 ton kilometers per flight, so we divide it by 1,000. Well, if the data is showing the total cargo net ton kilometers, we divide this by 1,000, so we'll get 53.45 thousand. If it is the average being used to report the data, if the average is being used in the data, then it will be 10.69 thousand ton kilometers per flight. Okay, so these are kind of like used in aviation either for the passenger kilometers traveled or for net cargo transported. Okay. Um, Yeah, here the same thing. So if the data is used to show the total passenger kilometers, then it's this number 652,000 divided by 1,000. You'll get 0.65 million passenger kilometers in total that has been transported in that month if it is monthly data. As I said, it can be daily, weekly, or monthly. The data we're going to look into here is going to be in monthly format. Okay. So why these metrics matter? Well, they reflect aggregate aviation activity for a given month, or a given day, or a given week, or a given year, or a given quarter, right? So you can get a different granularity levels there based on the data availability. It helps assess passenger demand, cargo logistics, fleet utilization, economic impact of aviation. So it's especially to see the trend over time, right? Seasonality patterns, and to see that it's a good metric here. Because we do not only care about the number of flights, because it's also important to understand how full was the airplane, right? How full was the flight there? So rather than just looking at the number of flights or just looking at the number of distance traveled, passenger kilometers is a good way to assess the efficiency and how much of change is happening over time. All right, so the data will look like this. So you see there, for example, this is in Australia. This is the country code. So we have total number, we have domestic number, and we have the international numbers. This is the period it's happening in. Um, so let's see here. So no, it's monthly, but some of the months might be missing. So that's something that we need to be aware of. Where you see here, for example, 2024, January, February, March, April, May, June. Okay. So we have until 24th of June. We have 2023 there, 2022. So okay, so it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so this data is basically goes until June of 2024. So these numbers is basically, in this case, it's passenger kilometers. In the other sheet, we have cargo net ton kilometers. Okay, and these numbers represent the um, average passenger count, and this is the average cargo count. Basically, average million passenger kilometers traveled, and this is the average cargo net ton kilometers in thousand. So this is in millions, cargo will be in thousands. Probably we'll just be using this passenger numbers here. All right, let's go to Power BI now. After that explanation, so I just try to explain that data so that it makes sense to you what we're going to look into. It's always good to understand your data as much as you can before you start doing anything on it, because once you start creating visualizations and different things, in order for you to understand what's going on there, what you're doing, basically you need to be able to understand data, right? If you create some visualization out of the data you don't understand, well, probably you will not understand what the visualization is telling you too. So it's always important to understand what the data is about. Okay, get data, Excel. Um, all right, so we go into Power BI. This one. Yeah, I'll just load passenger. Okay. Um, okay, what happened? Where is the... Okay. Oh, okay, it's already loaded. I just wanted to... Okay, transform data. Okay. Yes, this is, I just wanted to make sure that the column types are correct. So if you just, let's say you skip that page and just load the data directly, you can come here, home, and then go to transform data, right, to be able to just make sure that the column types are correct, which is very important. So we have country, country code. Okay, we are not really going to use country code. Series is the type that you're looking at. Okay. Period is the date, so it's good. It's date type, and data is the number of the passengers in million kilometers traveled, so that's good as well. All right. So we have several countries here from Asia, from Americas, from Africa, from Europe. I selected a few countries and downloaded it. Okay, so now let's come here. So let's drag and drop a period in this in our report data. Okay. Now, okay, if we create a chart like this, this is the line chart. This is basically going to aggregate every value in our data, right? Throughout the years, and you see it, the data is spanning from 2016 until mid of 2024. Now, right now, this is not good, and the reason is this because we have both different countries here, and also both the total, there's three different values. There's a total value, there's international, there's domestic. So total is basically international plus domestic. That's under series. Now, without going into much detail, and I will come back to this later on, but basically you see here filters. So I will drag and drop this series over here, and I'm going to select domestic. So these are the domestic numbers. You see, pay attention to the y-axis. It went down, and the international numbers. And the total is basically the total of the two, right? So let's go with, yeah. So for now, okay. So these are the values there, right? Okay. So now, for example, let's do this. Let's just look at the total number. Okay, total number of passengers, both domestic plus international. Now, when you draw a figure like this, okay, so in this case it's a line chart. It's basically a time series values, right? There's 1 point for each year here because we are at that aggregation level. We are at the highest level, which is the year level. Now, what does this number mean here? So when you look at the figure and based on what you're doing, and that's what I was trying to show you here, you need to exactly know what's going on. So this number here, you see when I didn't put the filtering, this 6 million here was basically all the countries in our data, right? And there's quite a few, by the way. So we can just quickly check here. So there's Chile, there's Colombia, there's Egypt, United Kingdom, Australia, France, Germany, Netherlands, Brazil, there's Turkey, there's Canada. Because of that, the U letter in Turkish, you see Turkey. It looks a bit weird there. I couldn't get that character correctly in. There's Germany, there's quite a few countries there. So it takes all of those countries, all of the values there for the 2016 here, in this case for 2016, it adds them up, but in this case it adds both the domestic plus international plus total. Okay, so that's what this value represents. Okay. Um, Now, when I selected here this the total, so basically then I'm getting the total. This is the international plus domestic values, right? First of all, if you have both domestic, international, and total, that's double counting because this total already has domestic, international. So that value we were seeing there before was wrong. I mean, that's a wrong number to look at. This one makes sense. This is the total number, basically domestic plus international among all the countries in 2016. Okay. You see this drastic drop here clearly from 2019, 2020, and we all know what that is, right? It's pretty obvious. It's basically the COVID and then the shutdowns and everything, so no more travel happening around the world. So that's what does, you know, you can clearly see that pattern there, and then it kept increasing afterwards. Um, Now at the end, for example, when you pay attention to this, why is there a drop? Well, we have the full year of 2023, but we have only half of the year for 2024, right? It's the first 6 months only. Because of the 6 months, you know, 2024 is somewhere here. Um, so it's interesting though. It's about 1.5 million. So if you know, kind of if you assume that the same number is going to happen in the next 6 months, or maybe a little more, so 2024 will end up somewhere here. So it will be around the same level of 2023, maybe even a bit less or so. And you can see that as well because from 2022 to 23, there's an increase, but the increase is quite small compared to this 21 to 22. Okay, you can see these trends here in this graph. Okay, now, so I can, for example, this country, I can put it into legend. And now each color, right? You see each color will represent a different country. The thing is, there's too many different categories here. There's a lot of countries, and that's why it doesn't look good here anymore. Okay. The upper line I assume is yeah, okay. United States by far is the largest number there, so that's why it's dominating, and everyone else is kind of pushed down here. Okay, so so when you have too many different categories like this, it's not good to put them all in the graph. Now here, one good thing, you can definitely highlight it, so you can select the United States like this, or let's say Netherlands, but then it will highlight that. That's good, but it will be still, you know, down here squeezed because of this big number here of United States. So that's not what we want. Let's get rid of that. Rather, I'm going to just put this country again into this filter area. Where is it? Okay, it's down here. Let's, for example, I don't know, we can just choose one country. Let's go with Germany. Okay, so this is the total million, total passenger kilometers traveled in millions. Okay, so that's what this value is. So here this 200,000 means 200,000 million passenger kilometers. Okay, that's what that means. And you see the trend over the years. Okay. Okay. So now let's focus a bit on this part, the either switching to next level or expanding next level, right? Data drill. So when I do this, these two buttons are the same as these two over here. So this is switch to next level and this is expand to next level. So when I click this one, you see, we are going to switch to the next level. Basically, from yearly level, we are down to quarterly level now, right? The problem with this one is that the years are no longer being considered, right? It directly goes from the year to the quarter level, and you can see that clearly here too. Let me show that. So on a kind of, so this is our figure, right? I get out of the figure. Again, I just drop this period over here just to show you. So you see we have the yearly data, and then there's the quarter right after that. There's the month, and then there's the day, right? So it goes like this. So January 1st until January 31st. Okay. Now the thing is, in our data set, it's only monthly data, so the days are not going to be like this. It's always going to be assigned to the first of the month. So where's the data? So if I put data right next to it, and you see right now it's always the first of the month, just this is the number of passenger kilometers in millions being traveled there. For example, for the month of January in 2016 and so on. Okay, so that's what this data is showing us. Okay, so now when you just go into the quarterly level, right, we are discarding any information regarding the year. So this quarter one basically means aggregate the value of all the passenger kilometers. In this case for Germany, right? In this figure, it's only for Germany. Take all the years, take only the quarter one, which means January, February, March, add them up, and this is your value because we are looking at the sum. Okay. Same thing for the quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four. But you see there's no year information. If you go again one more next level, we are going into the monthly data, and here both the year and the quarter are discarded. We are now just focusing on month. So what does this mean in terms of SQL or SQL, if you know, or basically in data analysis? We are grouping by the month here, and we are just that. We are no longer taking into account year or quarter information. In this one, if you go one level up here, quarterly, basically we're grouping by the data in quarters, into quarters, right? So that's it. And we are not, basically we are treating that quarter as a category, and that's it. Here, we are treating the month as a category, right? And then we are basically like grouping into those categories, which are the months, and that's it. We are not considering the year, we are not considering the quarter. If you go one more level, well, this is daily aggregation level now. So we are not considering year, quarter, or month, it's day level. The thing is we are seeing just one dot, and the reason is actually right here. As I try to explain, since the data is monthly, the day level doesn't mean anything here, it's monthly data. And it could have randomly picked some date, some day here, like the 10th of the month, the 5th of the month, it doesn't matter. In general, it's the first of the month that's being picked. So for example, like this is the same thing for any kind of monthly data like unemployment rate, I don't know, inflation rate, things like that is monthly. Let's say if it is reported monthly, it's just, you know, the first of the month are being shown in that case, unless a specific day is being reported to you. Okay, so that's what's happening here. So the reason there's only a one dot, because you see in our data, it's always like the first of the month being recorded. That's it. January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, etc. So at that level, the aggregation is happening. So this point, basically the total of all of these values here, you see. Okay, all of the numbers you take here, add them up, you will see this value. Okay, in this case, it's 1,495,000. Okay, again, this is only for Germany. The number you see here is different because this is just showing for the whole data at the moment. Okay, um, because I didn't put the filters there. The filters only apply to this. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Now let's go back up, and probably what we want to see, is not this one. Probably what we want to see is the one that makes more sense. Is this one, expand next level, or this one over here in data drill. If you go to this expand next level, let's click on that one. So now we are now at the year and quarter level. So what does this mean? It means we are both considering year plus the year quarter. So the grouping by is happening using both the year and the quarter information. Okay, so this is 2016 quarter one, 2016 quarter two, and quarter three, four, and then we jump to 2017 quarter one, quarter three, quarter two, and so on. You see that drop in 2019, and then slowly increase happening after that in 2020 and 2021 and so on. Okay, so this is quarterly data. Let's go one more down. So we are now, you see actually the graph shows this very clearly. So you see a very kind of smooth out graph here. Here you see more details at the quarter level, and when you go to monthly level, you see even a bit more detail, right? Because there's more granularity in our data now. It's at the monthly level. So what does this do? It basically aggregates your data. It groups your data by considering both the year and the quarter and the month. Okay, so that's why we preserve that year and quarter information when we are at this monthly level. And you see from left to right, the year basically starts at 2016, goes until 2024. Okay, so that's what's happening here. Okay, so depending on your situation, both could be useful. You just need to know what you're doing, and you need to understand what these values are at what aggregation level this value is there. Okay, this for example 2019 quarter 3 August, it says 22,937, right? So what does this mean? Well, in this case, it means for Germany, because that's the only country we're looking at, the total number of passenger kilometers traveled in millions, right? in August of 2019 was 22,937. That's what that means. Okay. All right. So I hope that is very clear to you. And yeah, again, I did not really focus on this filtering much. We will talk more about this later. But this is basically um, kind of helpful here in terms of just getting the data we want to see in our figure. Okay. All right. So that's it for this one. So we explained what the data is and creating this figure, and then focusing on the different type of drilling in this data, by either switching to the next level or expanding to the next level. So next we will continue more looking into the filters and see what kind of graphs we can create. All right, thank you.